Welcome to the community roundup, um, the community weekly roundup. Although we've had to cancel the last few weeks due to illness and whatnot. Anyway, good to see everybody, except for Portia, who's now sick. We traded illnesses, I think. Just a quick update. I don't actually have much community stuff that happened this week. I've been sort of churning away on this GitHub metric stuff, which is a very fun project. But if you ever wanted to just discover every AWS rate limit, it's the perfect project, actually. So that's been sort of the continuous hell that I've been in for the last week. Terry, what's up? What have you been up to this week?
I've actually been doing a lot to try to figure out how we can get the next offline camp planned, which is not specific to IPFS, but there may be people in this community who are interested. It's about offline first development. So I spent a lot of time kind of working with the co-organizers, trying to track down venues that might work for that, and we're getting very close. And then I haven't had a chance to spend too much time on the proto school tutorials, but I think because I've missed a couple of meetings, maybe people don't know that that file tutorial is in progress. So intending to teach the file API, and at the moment what you can do with it is upload files into it, and then, in theory, do something with them once they're there. So that's in progress. I'm trying to think. I don't know what else exciting I have right now.
Yeah. Things that we're just like knocking stuff out. It's just a lot of churning and just working right now.
Yeah.
So I just posted a link to the current pull request for the mid-quarter OKRs. One thing we forgot to put in projections, so I added some, but some more need to go in from you and Portia. So once that happens, we can land that. Also, for everybody else who hadn't seen the PR, one thing that we've done is we've tried to focus the community working group for the next couple of quarters on like one set of users. Right now, a lot of our work has been spread across things that are like good for new users to IPFS, new contributors to IPFS, and also some longtime contributor stuff as well. And so we've sort of cut the second two of those out for the next 2 quarters, and we're just focusing on things for new users. So a couple work items were actually removed, and like some new stuff around the website and making the website a really awesome place for new users to show up has been added to it. So if you're interested in some of the reshuffling and some of our priorities, that's a good place to look. I just put it in the chat. And I think that's it for sort of regular updates and OKR check-ins and everything. We can just open it up to Q&A now and just kind of have like an office hours. So Jim, Dan, you got anything that you want to discuss?
They're doing construction outside here, so it might be sort of loud. I don't know if you can hear that.
I can't hear anything right now.
Okay. Yeah, so I've just been doing a little bit more work on PeerPad lately. So I'm sort of looking around for collaboration opportunities for showing what we can do with these collaborative editing environments. So
I know there were some bugs and some stability issues. Have those been mostly worked out? Is it pretty stable now?
It's getting there. I think it needs some user testing. So it was a little bit it was a little unclear on what the forward direction was for it because of the rescoping exercise. But it seems like there's the will to move forward with it a little bit, and also build some more CRDT style demos that hook various things together. So I'm sort of looking around for talking to different groups and seeing what they need. So.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of the descoping is that we're not changing work items until next quarter, and so like this quarter we're still sort of working on the same stuff that we were before and trying to get it into a place where like if we had to put it on pause, it would be like in a good place to put it on pause, basically.
Yeah.
Which is good. Yeah, I mean, I really want to use PeerPad for a bunch of stuff, but it seems to be like in this perpetual state of like almost like it's like the last 5%, and it's just like it just stretches. It's It's one of those kinds of
Yeah,
like
well,
I've worked on so many technical problems like that in my life though, where it's just like, oh man, it was so close to being perfect. Damn it.
yeah, it's getting pretty good. Getting the last little bits of the pinning solution figured out, and I think that's really the showstopper for people. Like, can they collaborate and not lose the data? Like, the collaborations are persisted into IPLD forever. And this becomes like, okay, you can build really interesting editors that work, that manipulate IPLD. I think that's the killer feature of this thing. So
Very cool. Very cool. Dan, any updates or questions or anything?
Sure. So I guess quick update. ETH Denver was really good. Beforehand, I gave an IPFS specific presentation and talked a little bit about Proto School and what we're up to. And I'd say there was about 35, 40 people there. So a lot of interest here locally in just some of the basics and fundamentals of distributed web tech. So I'm excited to see what happens with the meetup here now that that's going. So I think the next one's going to be here as soon as I can free up a little bit of time in the next couple of weeks, so at least for me to get something spun up. And then I think I'm going to be identifying others that can join me in building out some of the user base, and then continue to move from there. So one thing I wanted to comment on is I haven't gotten back to
Interesting
you,
overlap
Terry.
there with there's some interesting overlap there with like what Open Collective does in terms of like enabling people to fund, but also like you can help provide infrastructure. So I started sort of like an internal thread with finance and some other people to see if there's something that we might be able to do there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be great. So talking about specifically granting for meetups and things like this.
Yeah. I think that like we wouldn't want to like create a lot of like we just like don't we don't want to be in a position where like a bunch of people have to staff approving things or like reading through the grant applications. But you know, having so in order to do an open collective, you kind of have to have a bank account somewhere, unless you're like an open source project that they want to put under their bank account. So one thing that like a lot of foundations do and a lot of larger projects do is that they just sort of like set up the quote unquote collective, and then that provides the bank account backend, and then money can come in and get spent out through each individual collective, and there's like transparency around the expenses and stuff like that. And what a lot of collectives do is they will like either just like so you can set it so that you collect some of the money or you collect none of the money, and you can also set it so that like these collectives just automatically get some money. So we could set it up so that like any meetup that wants to start fundraising this way, we would seed them with some money, and we wouldn't have to worry about like abuse and things like that, because there is like a lot of transparency around the receipts and all the expensing and all that.
Interesting.
So that's really cool. Yeah, it's a really kind of cool model. And like that also wouldn't make it so that we're always the only funder. Like that would also make it very easy for any of these collectives to get money from their own communities and continue fundraising beyond.
So the model I was looking at as well, but it still would need maybe more administration. What you're talking about is Gitcoin grant actually is something I think it would be interesting, even if we just threw that in there as a general project. It's to support open source projects, specifically building a proto school itself. I think it'd be a great resource for that, where people can optionally donate in. You could potentially seed some in to fund the pool effectively, and then bounties on top of that. So it feeds out to people to develop the actual tool set. Which
that's good for more targeted stuff. That's
right.
Yeah, I feel awkward about using that system, at least in the current state of the project, about using a bounty system for contributions to the project. I think a lot of what's happening right now is, so we have a whole lot of little issues that have been identified, right? There's a lot of like UX changes that we need to make. There are some overhauls that we may or may not be making to like move the whole thing into ViewPress or not. There's stuff we're working on, like, event tracking, random stuff like that. That people could be picking up. And as people propose topics for tutorials, we're at a stage right now where that's going to require a lot of really careful focus on what content we add in what order to have the scaffolding available. So I'm not in a place where I think it makes a lot of sense to be like, sure, build a thing and we'll throw you some money. Like there's a lot of careful.
You can be very targeted with this. So you can make a bounty for a very specific tutorial in a very specific way, if you'd like. But again, I think it's just to get that idea across that I think it's a great way to try and mechanize bringing people on board. And potentially also things like meetups could be granted through this. So it would be a bounty for a meetup to be, done. Like, so it'd be such and such dollar amount, or potentially I don't think you could structure it to be a repayment of whatever you paid, receipts and things like that. But it could be a mechanism to fund those in general after the fact. And so it's just a thought. And so moving forward, we could think a little bit about how to do that. But it's exciting. Thank you guys for looking into it.
Yeah, it was good to get it on our radar and just start thinking about ways that we can better enable the communities. One thing that I don't think is publicized quite well enough is that we do have a Meetup Pro account, and so if anybody wants a free meetup basically on meetup.com, we can provide that.
And honestly, I think that Denver is now on there, and publicizing that more widely would be awesome. I don't know how much in the back end that having a bunch of these meetups would cost you guys. But if it's relatively close to free, then spinning up a bazillion of these would be probably okay.
I mean, I think it's something like $25 a month or something like that. Or no, it might be less when we have the org thing. But no, it's all negligible. We'll add anybody who wants to have a little bit up there. It's not,
as long as you're active once a quarter or something. Might be. I've seen that as a threshold.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you're someone, Dan, who gets it with the meetups, and a meetup is a thing that has regular content in the same location, and not everyone gets that, and they're just trying to do one event one time and call it that, which isn't the goal. So making sure that we have people who are interested in that continuing education. And I mean, I really you, Dan, definitely did exactly what we were intending for your first proto school meetup, working through the tutorials with the mentors in the room, and it's very quickly we'll run out of content to do the thing that we intend. So I want to make sure we avoid a situation where people are just slapping proto school labels on everything they do, and focusing on what that content goal is. And that's something that I think I need to work on making more clear in some of the documentation as I go along.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So some of the Linux Foundation projects have a pro account with a ton of meetups they've added to it too. When I was at the Linux Foundation working on the Node Foundation, we considered it for Node as well. But by the time that we had a foundation for Node, there were already just thousands of meetups that were fine. So we didn't really feel the need to add more infrastructure there. But it's worked out really well for Hyperledger, and for the CNCF has done it around Kubernetes and a few other things. So there's a lot of and none of them are feeling squeezed for money from the cost of doing that. So I'm not too worried about it.
Okay. Cool. So I guess the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'll have to get back to you, Terry, as well. ChainShot is this interesting tutorial builder that's was highlighted here for some of the stuff during the Biddle Week that we put on. And I really enjoyed their workshop. So I'm piecing through putting together that workshop via video so we can have some of the content for you guys to check out, kind of what they're about, if you're interested. I know you were saying right now, obviously, we've got a set of how we want to have Proto School with the interactive tutorial side of things. But as a model to think about, if we do want to expand in the future about some extra features and functionality, there's some really interesting stuff that they can bake in. One of the newest features they're testing is actually collaborative coding live between people on their platform. So I think that I'm going to put the idea in their head that CRDTs might be something that they should look into to do this in the back end, because it makes a lot of sense with what they're up to. So I'll point them in your direction, Jim, if they ever get to that point.
Yeah, Michael, I don't know if you saw it, but Dan had raised an issue about ChainShot as a possibility for building a structure, and somebody took one of our tutorials and put it in their format so you can see what it would look like there. At the moment, I think what would be helpful to me, Dan, is I'm not seeing the reason we'd want to use that versus our thing. So if you took some time to lay out like what is the feature that you see existing there that doesn't exist, that would be helpful. That's the kind of thing that I would need to see to understand. Like at the moment, I feel very comfortable like building with the system that we have within the structure that we have or the plan improvements to our site. And I haven't looked at the details of ChainShot, but it's really important right now that like our tutorials live on our website that has all of our other stuff, has our design and our branding, etc. So I'm hesitant to like send people away to another site to get their
Exactly.
education.
I don't think the point was to try and move people off of our website. It was to just be a mock of like what kind of feature sets we might consider, because it is more featured. So I'll put out a little bullet point for you here when I get to play around with their system more, as to what I think is cool about it.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, I think that's all that we have. I think we can give 10 minutes back to everybody if off of your calendar now. It's great to see everybody. Good to check in, and hopefully Portia will be feeling better next week and can join us again. Thank you all for showing up.